Hey, this is Eric from Skylabs. As you can see, Kevin's not here. He's still recovering from his surgery. And I've got Rob here, and we're going to be answering questions from you guys, the viewers. So hopefully you're going to stick around, even though Kevin's not going to be here. Send him your best wishes in the comments. I'm sure he'll like that. Get better, Kevin. It's going to be a fun one.
It's definitely going to be a fun one. I have everything printed out so that I don't miss anything. So pardon me for reading off this paper.
Steve Foster 2700 says, other than dirty pots, what is the common cause for channel imbalance, one side lower than the other? I don't think that's a dirty pot thing, is it?
No, usually not. Usually dirty pots are just noisy. A worn pot, potentiometer can be just worn to the point that the two channels carbon tracks are not even anymore. They wear thin and they get higher in resistance, and they can be significantly different resistance values, which tells the stereo that one side is of a higher volume than the other. And sometimes it happens on the volume pot to where when you adjust the volume, you have to tweak the balance a little bit. And I've even seen that on new pots that were replacements that just, they're not quite as accurate as the original ones. And you kind of get what you get on those things. The other problems can develop in the amplifier, often in the negative feedback loop that sets the overall amplifier gain, but that would be more of a uneven all the way across the board as you adjust the volume.
And I'm going to use this minute to just remind people that we have a Discord channel where there's a lot of people like Rob on there that are more than willing to help. We've got a great community set up there where, if you have any of these questions about specific pieces that you're working on, that's another good place to start. And I think we've got, I pop my head in there occasionally, but I think we've got quite a big community of pretty active users on there. So the link for that is in our description. So don't be afraid to check that out too. It's a great resource. All right. The second one from Steve is, what are your preferred caps for power supply and amplifier sections?
I guess my best answer is any name brand, new manufacturer, from a reliable supplier that meets the specifications you're looking for. Capacitance, voltage rating, physical size, ripple current rating, rated hours and temperature, all those things you kind of want to look at. Just don't buy used capacitors. It really is a thing.
Wait,
Yes.
you you see them on eBay? Like, here's a used capacitor?
Yep. You do. You see used capacitors that were pulled out of amplifiers, particularly old tube amplifiers and guitar amps for some reason.
Huh.
Because, well, it's original and they think it has the original sound to it. But I won't go down that rabbit hole.
I think there's a question in here about that we may or may not get to.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Dr. Noah.
Nobody.
Okay, it says, Rob, I sure hope you have a few ideas. I have two portables I'd truly love to have restored. A Superscope CRS 2200 stereo cassette and a Sansui CP7 stereo cassette from 1980. These units won raves from my friends when they were brand new, and even at their THD levels, they perform beautifully.
I have a short answer for that, and sometimes you can find a service offer for tape machines on eBay that accept shipped-in repairs, and that's true of a lot of different things. Sometimes if you scrounge around, you'll find a lot of guys that'll say, yeah, we repair them, and then they'll have like a fixed rate or something like that. I've seen it before. I haven't really looked for any for a long time. I don't know. I don't know who's out there now doing that sort of thing, but that would be my best advice, send it to somebody that does this all the time and has a whole wall full of rubber belts and things like that, mechanical parts that we don't have access to.
And experience getting in there and working on those
Right. Yeah.
wristwatch of.
Yeah. They're a lot different from one to the other, and trying to figure out how to get them apart to get at anything is difficult. We've done it in the past, but now things are getting old enough to the point where you're running into a lot of mechanical worn parts and things like that. And there are people that will fix those things if they can be fixed.
A lot of them are plastic
Um,
too, right?
yep, plastic gears, plastic clutches, rubber belts. Sometimes you'll see rubber belts on those things that weren't properly vulcanized. There was a whole run of them in the 70s, at least, that as they aged, they maintain their perfect shape and they look like they're fine. But if you touch them, they've turned literally into something the consistency of toothpaste.
On the inside, like a.
The whole belt, you can just rub
Wow.
it off in, and it gets everywhere. It's just as black as coal, and yeah, it's in your car, it's on your steering wheel, in your hat, everywhere.
I well, I guess the good thing, since these are portables,
Mm-hmm.
they're easier to ship out to somebody who
Yeah.
deals with these.
Yeah.
So I guess you could get on Audio Karma, or even get on our Discord.
D-
You could get on our Discord and see if anybody knows there, but most likely Audio Karma, or just search eBay, or just do a Google search and see if anybody works on that particular model, or just on portables. So,
This is an aside for the people that run Discord. Why don't you change the name to Discourse so it can be meaning discussion instead of argument? I have no idea.
oh, well, there you go. That's from Rob. He's got a little Andy Rooney in him.
Yeah, I got a little Andy Rooney in me, that's for sure. I don't have the eyebrows. You ever wonder about shoes?
We got one from Argyle Winter 6447. Two-part question, Rob. Graphic equalizers are pretty cool, right? Or no? Is that the second part? I
I
guess that's two
guess, because
parts.
that's the only thing I saw in here. Well, I'll say this. According to a Jacoby and Drake Brain Trust coolness study in 2020, their coolness rating is Category 2 Schedule A. So that speaks for itself. Next question.
All right. This one's from JS Kobe 808. Hi guys. What was your first piece of audio equipment that got you into being an audiophile? Before you answer this, I realize that I have that piece for me. I don't know if you're interested in what Eric has to show, but it actually happens to be right here, and I've shown this to Rob. This is a Panasonic stereo to go. This is the best Christmas gift I think I ever got, and I loved it. This is my first one. This is the original one that I had, and I just absolutely love this piece. Well, could you fix this so it works again, Rob?
No, no, I cannot.
Anyway, we'll put that there.
In my case, it was actually owned by my brother. The setup cost around $8,000 in about 1980, and that's about $30,000 today.
Wow.
It was a Lynn Sondek turntable, threshold amp and preamp, Nakamichi tape deck, and two Snell speakers. And I don't really remember what song it is at the moment, but I remember being at his house. Well, we were roommating at that time, and it was summer, and all the windows were open, and we're playing The Wall. And there's a part in one of them where there's an airplane crashing. I literally ran to the windows. I thought an airplane was coming down.
That's awesome.
It's always the older brothers that have the good audiophile equipment, or the bitchin' Camaro that you can't touch, etc., etc.
All right, next question. This one's from Sinner since 1962. That's an interesting YouTube handle. What brand of mid 70s receivers are the easiest to service, and which do you prefer to service as well?
I get this question a lot, and it's not really by brand, it's by model number. There are some traits with different brands, I guess, but you can have two Marantz, and one of them is a joy to service, and another one just, maybe the next model up is a real pain in the butt. They've moved things around and shoved everything in so tight on short wires. It takes a long time just to get it to where you can get it apart and hook it up to power in a position where nothing's short circuited so you can actually test it while it's running. Not really a brand, they vary a lot. For most models, I guess I generally lean toward Macintosh. A lot of their boards are plug in and their schematics are usually easy to read and so forth.
Cool. There's one right behind us.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Rob take a look at that at some point.
But mind you, I have worked on some Macintosh that were just a bear. So if it's got the double-sided circuit boards, and I really don't remember what model it was. I'm terrible with my memory of model numbers and things like that off the top of my head. But yeah, some of them are a real bear.
Okay, the next one is the Vintage Newbie. Is it okay in a vertical rack to have a tape deck and receiver one shelf above each other? Along those same lines, are there any pieces of gear or media that should not be kept close to each other?
Well, besides the obvious, don't put your turntable on top of your big speakers. As long as there's free air movement between the components, you're probably okay. Receivers and power amplifiers roll off a lot of heat if you're cranking them up. So I tend to like to see them closer to the top as long as it doesn't make the rack too top heavy. Well, I will throw this in. Keep your stuff away from your modem.
Yeah.
Keep it at least a couple feet away because even good quality amps, I can hear them, go and people think there's something wrong with the amplifier. You move it another foot away from the modem and it goes silent. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen that,
Yeah, even like
including at my house.
it's kind of like that interference you get from just a cell phone.
Yeah,
You'll get
yeah.
that digital
It does sound
noise
like
that.
that. If you're playing like using a cell phone as a music source and you're not playing music at the moment, it's like putting out this digital noise. So
All right. All right. Our next question is from Mickey Buck 8087. Rob, I recently got 3 Pioneer Model 300 receivers. All are functional that I want to restore for my sons. My first shot at replacing the caps, filters, etc., and wondering where to start. I have the manuals from Hi-Fi Engine, but need a good way to learn to start diagnosing what components need replacing. Suggestions?
well, this kind of plays into what he said. It takes quite a long time to get proficient at electronics, and to a large extent because it's like learning a new language before you learn the technical how to. The terminology, the symbols, and the basics, Ohm's law, and all these things. It takes a long time before you even get into that. I wish I had a shorter answer for you. Audio Karma is a good forum to ask specific questions. And there are a lot of websites that you can read up on and kind of gradually learn things. One of my favorites, and this is a little more advanced, is Elliott Sound Products out of Australia. He has many useful articles for free on just about everything. If you're going to replace the capacitors, I would say, just go through and make a list. Maybe go to Mauser or DigiKey to get them. Do be careful of your polarity because the capacitors you're replacing are going to be the electrolytic kind, basically. They're usually polarized. And if you put them in backwards, they explode. Sometimes the manufacturers will put plus on the side that goes to the positive side, but the capacitors usually are marked which is the negative side. So, I mean, you have to kind of make sure you don't mix those up.
Mr. Joseph Gentile. I just impulse bought a Kenwood KR720. I can't figure out how to connect the equalizer and the CD changer. Is it possible on this receiver? Any help would be appreciated. I actually looked up that model number and looked at the back of the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no really auxiliary inputs. It's
No,
just
there's
there's
not.
two tape in and out. So I think
Mm-hmm.
you just use those.
Yeah, the best way probably to do that would be to put the equalizer between the tape play and tape in
Mm-hmm.
jacks, and then use the tape monitor switch to listen through the equalizer.
Yep.
If your tape monitor switch isn't on, it will just be silent. Unfortunately, there's no auxiliary input. As he said, to plug in a CD player, you might be able to get an equalizer with switchable inputs and go into there. It's really hard to say without seeing what you've got to hook up. But
Hopefully that answers your questions. This one's from Rixta83, and he says, does recapped equipment sound any better than a piece that has all original with no issues?
nope, it's only to prevent future issues with old capacitors. The original one was not having any issues. Really, all you're doing is preventing one getting hot and shorting out in a year or
Mm-hmm.
5 years or whatever like that. So, no, it really doesn't sound better unless there was a problem with the original capacitors.
Here we got one from the vintage newbie. Again, this is another question. What are some good regular preventative maintenance practices for vintage gear? For example, brush your stylus every. I brush my stylus every 2 or 3 records. Or if you have a dirty record, you're going to have to clean it more. But I try to keep my records clean. I'm answering this question for Rob, but clean your stylus every blank number of record plays, or work your switches back and forth 50 times every 2 weeks, etc. Thanks.
I would say he answered your record player, turntable, stylus question pretty well. I would just keep it cool and service it as soon as it has problems. I wouldn't want to add any wear to the controls unless they're getting noisy. And if they are getting noisy, clean them right away because that means abrasive dirt has gotten into them. Switches potentiometers are notoriously difficult to source. So, you know, just use them. Don't work them 50 times. I wouldn't because, they only have so many rotations in them, and you don't know how many they've had before that.
Hmm.
And switches too, to some extent. Yeah.
I've got a couple bonus questions that he hasn't seen, so these are going to be completely off the cuff. Kevin sent these in. Again, Kevin, I hope you're feeling better. Do you think transistors, capacitors, diodes will still be available for these units in 20 to 30 years?
That's a question I ask myself a lot. It's some of them are getting kind of hard to find. 20 years, maybe 30 years, I don't know. So much stuff is going to the surface mount devices and digital. I don't really know. They're not, if they're going to, even be supplying that stuff. Um, Hopefully, because it's its own thing, it's really a pretty good size industry now. A lot of people are into vintage electronics. Hopefully, some people will keep making those things available.
And like if there's current stock now that's in a warehouse someplace, if these are just sitting around in a box,
Hmm.
with a controlled temperature and humidity, whatever,
They should last a
Uh,
long
I
time.
mean, just without being used, they should last. It's not like the old paper ones that are going to dry out.
Hmm. Well, yeah, some things go bad just sitting, but if they're in a controlled environment, that helps a lot. Keeping moisture out and heat and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wish I knew,
Yeah.
but I won't be around, so it won't be my problem.
And that leads us into our last question here, and that is, do you think there will be a resurgence in 90s and 2000s gear?
I hope not. I don't know. That's like saying, well, your 1995 T-Bird be a collector's item someday. Hard to tell, you know. You get into, touch panels with a microprocessor or something like that. You may end up having to find a donor unit that works just to replace that circuit board or that big chip or whatever because You just, I mean, it's not a generic part like a transistor or a capacitor. Those things are still in there and they'll go bad. And
All
so,
right. Well, thanks, Rob. This has been great. Thank you guys for being patient with the video without Kevin. Like I said before, if you have any other questions, we'll do this again at some point. But a good place to check these things out is on our Discord. You can also join our YouTube membership, or we have a Patreon now. And with those different membership levels, you can get access to some behind the scenes stuff or some, our last video, we did reactions to stereo oddities. And I know we had a couple of items that we reacted to that didn't make the final cut, but we've put those up on Patreon and put them for YouTube members to look at. So if you want to see that stuff, join one of those. You can join for a month and check out some of the videos that you aren't seeing on our regular YouTube feed and then get out of there. So, or you can keep supporting us. Thanks a lot for watching.
thanks for
And
the questions.
thanks for the
God
questions.
bless.
Uh,
Get better, Kevin.
yeah, get better, Kevin. And we'll see you next week for another video. And hopefully Kevin will be back, but who knows? It might be me again. All right.
Bye.
See ya.
I don't know if you could hear him meowing there. Oh, there he comes. There's Gus.
Say hi, guys.
Hi, Gus.